Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about something that I promised to talk about quite a while ago, and that is the Mentalist Season 3 finale. The finale was so good that I had to talk about it on its own separate video. It was shockingly good. I mean, I did not expect it to be that good. Okay, I mean, I did not expect that, but this show continues to surprise me. You know, back when I was watching season 1 and I was thinking about stopping the show, I was like, I really, a lot of the times what happens with me is that I do something and then I kind of give up or I quit halfway through, and then I never get the reward at the end of the thing. And then when I follow through and I stick through with something that I was thinking of quitting, that's when I end up getting rewarded. And that would be the feeling of watching the season 3 finale. Is like, I'm so glad that I stuck through it and that I, ignored the criticisms that I had early on, which faded away really quickly because I loved the show. But The Mentalist Season 3, episodes 23 and 24, Strawberries and Cream, I thought this is the perfect episode to review on my birthday. This is my birthday video, I guess. And, wow. I mean, I just watched it again, and it continues to be almost just as good as it was the first time I watched it. I mean, that's the sign of a fantastic episode. There's a lot of TV episodes, like I was talking earlier about Fallout Season 1. That was a show that, I really liked it when it came out, but the experience of watching it was terrible. And frankly, I would never watch the first season again. It was so unenjoyable to binge watch it that it turns me all the way off. But this episode right here, this is going to stay just as good for forever. And I really wanted to do this review because I have been kind of unable to move on. I've been unable to keep watching season 4 because I feel like, I still need to do that finale review, So I just wanted to go ahead and do that and talk about the finale, talk about what I liked, talk about what I didn't like. In general, God, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it's just such a perfect episode. It's such a perfect hour and a half of TV. And I just wish that they made things like this nowadays. I mean, Dexter Resurrection was really good, but it was hampered by the fact that it was rushed and it only had 10 episodes? So it was very rushed. It did not really feel as grand as this. I mean, TV shows, they used to end seasons with a bang. They knew what the word finale meant. Finale used to mean this episode is the culmination of everything this season. This finale is the grand celebration. It's the grand ending. It doesn't even have to set up another season. It has to be a grand ending to the season. And TV shows used to do that. They used to have these badass finales where it just felt like, oh shit, everything's going to amp up now because it's the finale. People are going to die and shit. Patrick is going to get multiple cups of tea. Stuff is going to happen. Nowadays, they have changed finales. They have gone the postmodern route where it's like, oh, well, we don't really have to make a finale to make a finale. What if we did something symbolic or we did something slow and character driven, like, let's just have like an hour of two characters talking in a room together, and that's like our finale. Like, what if we did something like that subverted expectations? And you know what I say to that? You know what I say to finales that subvert expectations? I say, fuck that. I want a grand fucking finale. I want a finale to remember. I want something that it's like, okay, that was worth it. 22 episodes to get to that? Hell yeah. That's exactly what this season did. It's just so perfect. It's like, wow, like, this might be my favorite episode of TV I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of TV show episodes. I'm Californication, Twin Peaks. Those are some of my top shows. Hannibal seasons 1 and 2 only. And King of the Hills, great. Not as masterful as these, but Andy Griffith's show. Being Human, the U.S. version. That one's kind of it's kind of gone down for me because it's kind of soap opera-y. But like in general, overall, like, I just wish they made finales like this nowadays. Like, I really hope to. I'm really worried because I really hope that seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7 don't have mediocre finales. Because it's going to be really hard to top this. And that was one of my critiques of this episode, actually. My critique for Strawberries and Cream is that it's too good. It's so good. How could you even do better than this? And I'm not saying that in like a way where like I'm saying, oh, well, it should have ended here because, it could overstay its welcome. No, I'm saying, I'm just asking. I'm just being inquisitive because I just look at this and I go like, yeah, I don't know what you're going to do after this that's going to be any better than what this was. Like, I don't know. That's for the writers to figure out, like, that's their problem. So let's get into this shit. Number one, and I have a bunch of notes here. I wrote a bunch of notes. There is perfect symmetry. The episode starts off with an innocent man getting killed on accident and ends with a guilty man getting killed on purpose. And I love the fact, too, in the second part of the finale, really, I guess you could say there's two killers. You have Grace and Patrick. They're the killers of the episode part 2. I love the fact that, like, Patrick is a killer in one of these episodes. Like, that is cool. And what I mean by that is, like, every other episode, he's investigating a killer of the week. And in this one, he gets to be the killer. That's perfect. Season 2 finale, Red John talks to Patrick in person, but his identity is covered up. He doesn't know who he is. And in the season 3 finale, Red John talks to Patrick in person, but this time it's his face, but it's not really him. But then also Patrick talked to Red John before the fake Red John. So I know that's confusing, but it's the symmetry, it's the paralleling, and that kind of stuff. I told you guys, that's one of the best things you can do in storytelling if you do it right. It's a very intelligent type of thing to do. The final moments of the finale are perfect. Patrick figures out the assassin brought the rope to get to the floor below her, indicating Grace's fiancé Craig was the bad guy. But then he also doesn't figure out that it's another switch-up. Red John did that on purpose to make Patrick think that he was ahead of him and that the other guy was him. In essence, Red John was one step ahead of Patrick again. So yeah, it just seems like overall, like, Red John is of drastically higher intelligence than Patrick. I mean, there's a lot of moments throughout the finale where it's like, I really wish that Patrick would do some of this stuff himself, and we'll talk about that because I think that if he did, he'd be able to solve a lot of what's going on a lot faster and such. But yeah, ironically, and now this is a big rant. Ironically, the entire finale's events could have been prevented by this modern day BS. And I'm talking about Hightower. By forcing Grace and Rigsby to break up, Hightower put Grace in a position to get together with an inside agent who would then come to kill her. As well, Rigsby saw her fiance didn't cover for her when she was in danger and chose not to tell Grace due to not wanting to seem like he's trying to be personal or petty. But if he had told her this, it might have led Grace to figure out her fiancé was Red John's friend sooner, even before he could have shot Lisbon. So the entirety of Season 3 is literally all consequences of what happened in Season 2 and this modern day BS with like, oh yeah, we got to separate the, two people who work together can't date, like all of that is literally why Season 3 happened the way it did. People were killed because Hightower forced two co-workers to break up. That's pretty bad, guys. That's really, really bad. And I think that's very good because that's something you'd never see in 2025. It's also baffling how Rigsby never mentioned it in the second half of the finale, and he hasn't mentioned it in Season 4 at all. The thing about, her fiance not covering her, just sitting there. Why didn't he ever mention that? I mean, I get, there's emotions and stuff because, she's going to get married to him. But it's like, look, if we're going to do this bullshit where, we have to separate personal shit from professional shit, then, why wouldn't you tell her about that? It would be good data. It would be good to know. It would also be good for Craig to, acknowledge it in the show. Hey, maybe even if he told Cho, if he went up to Cho and he's like, look, I was going to tell, or I think he was asking Cho if he should tell her or not. I can't remember, but if he had told her, that might have made a difference. There's a part where Craig goes to the car to get his cell phone, and there are very distinct gunshot sounds. And you would think that Grace, being a CBI agent, would know what a gunshot sounds like. But I guess she ignored it because her fiance is coming back and he seems fine. But if she knew that Craig did not cover her and what he did in that other episode, she would have known, hey, did he just kill someone? And she would have taken her gun out and shot him or whatever. So that's a big deal, guys. That's a big, big deal. And look, I still think Hightower is a complete hypocrite. Even though, I know you could say, oh, well, Marco, her cousin was tortured. She was almost killed. Who cares? It's all because of her. It's all because of her. If all that stuff didn't happen, it would have worked out totally different probably. I don't know. I don't really know. Because he probably still might have tried to frame her for killing Todd Johnson, which also, I was so shocked that, Todd Johnson's death was, a huge part of Season 3. Because that Red Moon episode, it's really not, an A episode. It's, a B+. But, it was so shocking and unexpected that his death would be, a huge part of the show. But I was glad, so, yeah. Early in the finale, Patrick asks Lisbon if she would jump off a cliff if director Bertram asked her to. This is a direct foreshadowing to the assassin jumping off the hotel balcony in the second half of the episode. Because director Bertram is Red John, that's what I think, and he is the one who told her to jump off the balcony, in this case the balcony, not a cliff. So I thought that was very intelligent writing. I pick up on all the stuff, guys. And yeah. Director Bertram's constant focus on public image is also a huge clue that he's Red John. Red John is all about public image with the smiley faces, etc., etc. I don't know why Patrick didn't figure that out. I don't know why the audience didn't figure out that he was Red John either, since he quoted William Blake earlier in the season. In fact, I think that he was such an obvious suspect as Red John that, like, from this point on, you would have to kind of, like, drop him off the show so that, you know, the audience just doesn't figure it out right then and there. Because, like, the fact that he quoted William Blake, it's like, that's a game changer, you know, like that's a smoking gun, you know. That's not some little thing. Like, it's like, I guess if you could say it like, oh, what if Red John quoted, like, Socrates or something, and then he quoted Socrates, that would, but this is a very specific poet, William Blake. And that was really bizarre. But awesome. Awesome. Another hint that Gale is Red John is when LaRoche suggests the terrorist will try putting a bomb on another person again. Gale immediately writes it off and says it's guesswork. That's something that Patrick would have seen, by the way. He protested loudly and quickly to that suggestion. So it's that thing where, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, after Charlie Kirk got killed, and immediately Israel, BB, he went on TV and he loudly was like, I did not do that. I am, the chosen person and all my people. Like, he immediately, went on TV because everyone knew that it was Israel that took part in killing Charlie Kirk. And so it's the same thing here. When you have someone like that, it's like when there's like a teacher or something in a classroom and they say, somebody, or they like make an accusation like somebody did something bad in the men's room, and then there could be a guy like, oh no, I don't think that happened. I don't know. Something like, okay, that was a stupid thing. That was such a stupid example. I didn't even have to give an example. But you guys know what I mean. It's just the thing of like, it's kind of like those conservative politicians who are so against like gay marriage and gay rights and stuff, but then they're all closeted gay, and you can tell that too. And so and then there's some other examples on the left side of things too. But like getting off of politics, I'm just saying this was a huge red flag. Just like the part where Gale says that he wishes the whole Hightower situation would just vanish. I mean, that's such a bad thing to say. Like, I would never want like the director of the CBI, the FBI, whatever, to say, I wish that the Epstein thing would just vanish. Like that would be like, oh well, how many kids have you assaulted? Like that's what my first question would be, because it's like, why would you want the Epstein thing to vanish? That's not a good thing to say. And then Gale also, again, another huge red flag. He describes the bombing plan as elegant. Very weird. I appreciate how Hightower asks, how Patrick will find Red John and his friends so easily after he hasn't been able to find him for months, because that was going to be one of my criticisms of the season, was the fact that for all these episodes, there was like no progress on the Red John case, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, now we got to do it. But they literally kind of acknowledge it, and Patrick says, oh, because I have to, because, time has run out. And I thought that that was such like a fun way for the writers to just be like, yeah, we know. Like it's the finale. He has to do what he has to do. Both Gail and Patrick describe their own plans as elegant. So Patrick describes his plan with finding the friend as elegant later on in the episode. And also, both parts of the finale are Red John and Patrick following through with their own separate plans, like two giant chess moves. Gail plants the word rope in Patrick's mind on purpose. That's insane. So, yeah, Red John is very specific with words, quoting William Blake, all that bullshit. The fact that he said, Patrick, I think that you're at the end of your rope, he did that on purpose. So if none of you guys realize that, you didn't realize it when you watched it like back in the day or even recently, I couldn't believe that. I didn't notice that until the third time rewatching this. So I think that, again, like, Red John is so much smarter than Patrick, it's not even funny. Which, I like that. I like the fact that the villain is smarter. I like the fact that the hero has to struggle. He's not like, the Mary Sue Ray in Star Wars, where she can just get everything without any issue. She doesn't have to face any struggles, Like, I like the fact that Patrick is basically, he's a loser. He's a complete loser. He is a... I love the fact, too, I didn't talk about this before, but they gave Patrick, like, his own, like, lair. They gave him, like, a lair that he can be in, and he can just aura farm, sitting there and, like, looking through files and shit, like, look at me. Like, he has, like, his own lair. I just thought that was super cool. But it's also kind of sad because I liked it in season 1 in particular where, the camaraderie with the other guys and him being on the couch all the time. And there was that one episode where he solved the case because the janitor moved his couch. And he's like, oh, well, you must be the bad guy because you moved my special couch. And like now it's like, well, oh, he's always in his little lair away from everyone. I would say, too, I would like to talk about depth of field. This is something that I never really thought about until most recently. I just kind of did a lot of this stuff intuitively, and I think that is kind of the best way to do it, because and this is the reason why I don't like to learn a lot of things. Like, I don't like to learn a lot of things in a way where, like, it's like, okay, well, now I'm just going to do everything the quote-unquote proper way. I want to kind of figure things out myself. I want to use, like, a naive, like, an intuition to make art the way that I want to make it. To make it something unique and different. I don't want to... There was this one time, I used to be friends with this real bitch, and she went to high school with me, and she was a real bitch, and she was friends with me on Facebook, and basically all she did was just comment on every post, trashing me, insulting me, making jokes about me, and I really got sick and tired of her, because I didn't know what her problem was. She was like a loser in high school. She was no big deal, just like me. Like I was a loser too, kinda, except at least I had a mustache. It's a certain point, and she actually has a mustache now too, but that's a separate story. But the point is, and that is true. That is the truth. But the point is, there was this one time that I posted a piece of art on Facebook. And, I'm perfectly fine with criticism. I love criticism. I critique. I'm critiquing right now. I love constructive feedback. Feedback is the most important part of the process. But there's a lot of times where you can tell if someone is being genuine or not with their feedback. I'll never do test screenings for my movies again. There's a lot of times where you can tell that people give very disingenuous and biased feedback. And I'll never do test screenings again for that reason, because I want to just release the art that I want to release. If the studio made me have test screenings, I would do it, but then I would just say, yeah, I don't really care. But the point is that she gave me like an essay on why my drawing was so bad, this piece of art. And I was like, wow, fuck you. Because at that point, you could tell she wasn't just, like trying to be helpful or trying to say like, because like a lot of the times what you should do and what I try to do is you critique on someone's level. So like I'm really harsh and negative, as people like to say, but I'm like that towards these studio movies where they have millions of dollars, all these talented actors, and all these resources. They should make a lot better products than they do. They have no excuse. But if I was criticizing like a little indie movie, like I'm not going to rail them. I'm not going to, criticize them like I'm like, trying to make their day bad. But the stuff that she said was terrible. And it was like that, like it was like on purpose. And so the point is, why was I talking about that? Okay. Oh, okay, I guess because I want to make art that's unique to me. And so, like, when it comes to depth of field, I never really thought about it in terms for filmmaking. I mean, they probably teach it in film classes, like, immediately. In fact, I took a couple of film classes, but I never learned about depth of field at all. But what happened was, it's very interesting, and I'm talking about this because this is a very, this is kind of a tangent, it's kind of a side story, but I'm building up to why I'm talking about depth of field. So when I shot my first ever shoot with actors, I'm shooting on an iPhone. I'm using my resources. I'm being resourceful. I'm being crafty. I'm a crafty guy. I set the camera onto video mode. And this actress that I worked with, who turned out to be a fraud and a flake, she came up to the camera and she was like, don't you want to put that in like cinematic mode? And then she changed it to cinematic mode. And I was like, oh yeah, I should have realized that. Cinematic mode. So from then on, I literally shot every single shot for like a year and a half on cinematic mode because I didn't know the difference. I didn't, because when you put the camera on cinematic mode, it turns it into where it has a shallow depth of field, because that's what's considered quote unquote cinematic nowadays. It's very retarded. And then video mode gives you a wide depth of field. It gives you a very deep depth of field. And so I didn't know that. And so for over a year, I was just kind of fucking around with all this shit with the depth of field and shit. And so I really didn't appreciate it. I didn't really understand it. And then I learned about it. And I was like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of cool. And I'm probably not going to use the cinematic mode very much anymore because, like, hey, I want to show the backgrounds. Like, I want to have these cool looking backgrounds. And in a lot of the clips that I was editing, like, I really didn't like how you just have these people and then the background's all blurry and shit. It just looks so unnatural and stupid. You know, it almost looks like green screen. It looks cheap. It looks phony. And so the reason why I bring all this up is because in this finale, there's a fantastic use of depth of field where in the final scene when Patrick is talking to Timothy Carter, the depth of field is shallow. In it, you have these close-ups, these mediums, and you feel like these two people are the only two people on the face of the earth. They're sitting in the middle of a crowded mall, talking together, and somehow that shallow depth of field makes you feel like they're the only people there. To me, that's really cool. So that was the point of my story. I know that it kind of sounds me, it kind of makes me, it doesn't kind of sounds me, it kind of makes me sound like an idiot, but it's a good story, so, yeah. The music was phenomenal. It's used in about 70% of the finale, whereas in other episodes, the music is a lot less loud and it's more subtle. Oh yeah, and when Gale says there will be consequences, they use a wide shot of the room, and we see Timothy Carter sitting in the foreground of the shot. That is to imply and foreshadow killing him will be the consequence, that there will be consequences, not for the sting. The sting is irrelevant. It's just an excuse. The consequence is Timothy. He was planted there. That's something that, you know, Patrick and Red John have in common, is that they don't care about other people. They care about servicing their own goals, their own needs, their own desires. They do not care if other people have to die or other people get in the way. Oh yeah, and the movie Hightower's Kids Are Watching shows penguins jumping, I think, off a cliff and into the water like the assassin jumping off the hotel balcony. That was another big clue. I believe, I think, from what I saw, I think. I might be wrong on that because it goes by very fast. It is worth noting that when Patrick finds out his team was put in a life-threatening situation, Lisbon was shot, he's more concerned with finding Red John. So that is his biggest flaw as a character, is that Patrick is a selfish boy. In the other review, I talked about how there were a lot of little things throughout the show that built up to the finale. I counted all the little things. There were 13 episodes out of 22 that had elements that led to the finale. Like even little subtle elements. So that means that over half of the season was spent servicing the finale, building up to the finale. And that is why TV shows nowadays are so bad, is because you can't do that in a TV show anymore. The only thing that you could do, I guess, is build up over seasons to a series finale. That's the only equivalent that you could do, because you can't do a bunch of small little things throughout a season anymore, because seasons of TV are so short and meaningless and pointless. So here are my couple of issues with the finale. Patrick is all about reading people, yet he doesn't want to read the reactions of the people getting told Hightower's secret location, or ask his friends to read their faces. Gale's reaction is extremely suspicious. So, yeah. Lisbon does not recall Gale quoting William Blake. She never recalls that. I don't know why. I guess she's got a lot to think about, but it's very, very unique. he loudly says, "William Blake," right in front of her. And she's like, "Oh, I'll take note of that." Like, that's what it was like. It was like, and she took note of that. She took note of that comment. But then she doesn't, I guess, because she doesn't even mention it again. Rigsby does not bring up Craig not covering Grace when confronted with him being a suspect. He should have felt guilty that he did not warn Grace in advance at the very least. I mean, all the stuff with Grace in the finale is so cringeworthy. Like, the whole episode, all she cares about is her wedding. Lisbon wearing a pink wedding dress and shit, which that scene was pretty hot. Like when Lisbon had the pink dress on, I thought she looked pretty hot. Lisbon looks consistently hot throughout the show, just like Grace. Like Lisbon, they're both different kinds of hot. Like they're both like perfect in their own way, and that's why I love them, because they're just so perfect. And they both shine at different moments. Like, I can't remember if it was this episode, but there's one episode, and I swear to God, the camera people did this on purpose, but Lisbon's, like, walking up a flight of steps, or she's walking in front of the camera, and the camera's just, like, centered on her ass, and it's just like, wow, like, that's definitely a cinematic shot, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's good. They're making her look good. Like, that's a good thing. I love beauty. I love when they show beauty on TV shows and movies. They don't hide it. There's a lot of pictures. This is probably the weirdest thread that I've noticed nowadays in movies and pictures, modeling, all sorts of this shit. They purposefully will, like, crop pictures. They'll edit pictures. They'll take certain shots and crop them in movies and TV so that you can't see a woman's figure, so that you can't see a woman's beautiful body. And it's so creepy and weird. It's so strange. Like, I understand, like, they should do that when it comes to child actors, because obviously you don't want to give weirdos any sort of, like, material. But, like, when it comes to adults, when it comes to, like, just, like, a movie or something, like the new Jurassic Park, like, it's so weird. It's such a strange form of, like censorship of, like, oh, we can't show this woman's lower half because, the audience might get attracted to her. It's like, I love the fact that the Mentalist is just like, you know what? Who gives a shit? Because why do we? Let a woman be a woman. Let a man be a man. Let us all be who we are. For fuck's sakes. That should be on a shirt. I'm going to put that on a shirt. Let us all be who we are. And so, yeah. And now here's the thing. Grace. All Grace cares about is her wedding. When she finds out that Craig is a suspect, she sneers at Rigsby for agreeing with that, because she knows that, I love the moment in this season where Rigsby said, I'm not going to go to your wedding because I'm not going to be a beta bitch. I'm not going to be a simp. I'm not going to your wedding. Sorry. I hope you enjoy your life, but, fuck that. Like, he is honestly such a better Jim than Jim from The Office. You know what I mean? Like, he is so much more ballsier and so much cooler and more masculine and shit than fucking Jim, Big Tuna and shit. But, like, when she finds out her fiance is a suspect, she acted so unprofessionally, by the way. And then when she tells him that he was a suspect, it's like, why would you do that? That is like policing 101. Like, I don't care if it's been like 50 years. I don't care. Why would you tell someone that they were a suspect? What purpose did that serve? Legitimately, what purpose did telling him he was a suspect serve except to tell him they knew They knew that he was a bad guy. They knew. Or they could have known. And then the fact that, like, she has him come along with her to Hightower's secret location because he's her fiancé. It's so brain dead and stupid. Because at this point, Grace has failed to protect 2 other people from being killed. Or kidnapped. Or worse. She has a horrible track record with this shit. She failed a 3rd time. If anything, she should have been a stronger character here and not told Craig. Because you know what would have happened? He would have followed her anyways. He would have come to the ranch anyways. Or whatever that place was. He would have come to the location anyways to kill Hightower. Or take her to Red John. So all of that was like, why did they purposefully kind of dumb down Grace? I didn't like that. And then the last thing is my criticism I already mentioned, which is it's going to be really hard to top this. It feels like a series finale almost. The only other 2 things that you would have to add for it to feel complete would be Rigsby and Van Pelt hooking up and getting together, and then Patrick and Lisbon getting together. Those are the only other things. Other than that, this is like a perfect finale. And now let me delete the season 3 notes. So overall, this finale is almost, it's so good. It could be a movie. It could be a movie. Like, you can watch this. It's an hour and a half. It's like a movie. And it's actually, I will say this, 2025 movies have sucked. They've sucked really badly. Studios are ruining movies to appeal to Gen Z. And it's become a nightmare. It's become a terrible nightmare that won't end. And they make terrible movies for people who don't even watch movies. They do the dishes while they're watching movies. They do their laundry while they're watching movies. They do anything but sit in front of the fucking screen and watch a fucking movie. And they have failed. They have failed. The movies have dropped off. The actors have dropped off. The boobs have dropped off. Everything has dropped off. Quality has dropped off. Even Red John has dropped off. He got killed in the new Daredevil season. He got killed in the finale. I couldn't believe that was Red John. He looks so different, and he's such a different character. And, of course, I don't know 100% he's Red John yet, but I 99.999 suspect that that's who they picked as Red John. And, again, I want to echo my complaint with the season review. I think the guy playing Timothy Carter made a much better Red John. I do not think that this actor is right for Red John at all. I thought that the guy playing Timothy Carter, he was perfect. I've seen him before. He was in Adventures in Babysitting, and he had a license plate on his car that said "So Cool," and that was actually Bradley, I think his name is. That was Bradley's real license plate. And ever since I saw that, I've always been kind of inspired to want to get that same license plate. So yeah. But anyways, overall, love this finale. I could talk about it for hours. I'd love to talk about it again, in fact. I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't know where. Maybe I will rank the finales. I don't know. Maybe I will rank all the best episodes of TV I've ever seen, which would be really hard because I think that something problematic with TV show finales and good episodes is that a lot of them are really good in the moment. The emotions really hit you. Like in Bates Motel, I don't want to admit this on camera, but I will. I cried. I cried in some of the episodes of Bates Motel. And, but the point is, like, those episodes won't hit me the same anymore now that it's been years. So it's kind of like, well, how do you measure that against an episode that you just watched recently or more recently. So yeah. So first, please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of Season 3, Episode 24, Strawberries and Cream. And then, please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews. And lastly, if you are enjoying this content, we have a Patreon page. It is currently, I think there's just 2 tiers, and then my short film County Fear is also on there. It is included in the second tier, or you can get just the film itself. It's only $4.50. $4.50. It's discounted for the holidays, I believe. I'm not really sure. And there's also an hour and 40 minutes of behind-the-scenes footage of making the short film County Fear, and a bunch of bonus videos, a commentary, and there will be plenty more. So if you would like to see that, please follow the link down below. So, goodbye, everybody. See you soon, and thank you so much for watching. And also, I forgot, please check out the TV Police podcast. You have the 2 actors playing Rigsby and Cho rewatching the entire series of The Mentalist together, and then interviewing people, doing fun videos where they commentate over each episode. What a fantastic show. I bet I haven't watched it yet, because I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want to get spoiled anything. So after I finish the series, I'm going to go back and watch it again, and then watch their episodes too. And I really hope that you guys check out their channel and check out their videos too. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.